Welcome to the show with no name. For Friday, May the 9th, 2014. It is my brother Sean's birthday. Happy birthday, Sean.
Happy birthday, Sean.
How old is Sean?
Sean is, I had to figure it out with a calculator last night, because I was in high school when he was born, and he's 48.
Oh, I thought you were going to say he was still in high school.
It could be. Could be. Anyway, I'm Bob Going with Jim Nikosha and Gavin Murdoch. I'd like to first thank Simon Cadillhopper for sitting in for me last week.
They did a very good job, if you hadn't heard.
I heard that, yeah. I didn't watch the show.
Oh, you didn't watch the show? No. Oh, he was all right. It's too bad he doesn't stop by more often.
No, don't encourage it. Don't encourage it.
You mean we can do the show with four of us? It's possible.
Yeah.
As long as we're videotaping it, it is possible.
That's right.
Anything is possible.
That's right. We could even be outside someday if it's possible.
Until that kaboom at 4 in the morning, I was ready to do the show outside, but I don't know. It doesn't look as promising. It's going to be real hot the next few days,
yeah?
I guess. It's going up in the 80s.
Supposed to be,
Sunday.
Oh.
Yesterday was a perfect day.
Oh, it was the best day.
It was a lovely day. A lovely day.
Yes, it is.
We went to New York. Mary and I went to New York on Wednesday, and went to the Bronx Zoo.
Uh-huh.
I will tell that story later, because that's one of the later in the program.
Okay.
But this is the hard-hitting news and commentary part of the program. So later, when we run out of things to talk about, we'll talk about the fluffy stuff. Oh. Although that will be, I assure you, it will be an amusing series of anecdotes. Now, Gavin, the big news, I think, is in your department, because we're approaching voting on the school budget. You've already voted on it, right, on the school board?
The school board has approved the budgets being offered, but we have not voted on it yet because we're one of the citizenry, and we have to wait to officially vote on it when the electorate also votes on it. But we've proposed it and approved it, and hope everybody else will as well.
What are the big changes in the budget?
What are the big changes? Well, for all the municipalities, except the town of Florida, the tax levy went down. But
wow.
The town of Florida,
the value of the property in the town of Florida must be going up, up, up.
Well, their tax levy went up 2 cents per 1,000 assessed valuation.
The reason it went down is because we got a grant?
Well, it went down because we got more money from the governor. We were able to secure a number of grants to pay for programs, and we made a number of cuts in various portions of the budget to get it down where it is. And Kim Brumley, as she stated at the public hearing the other night, that she's really proud that we only appropriated about $220,000 out of the fund balance. So we are not borrowing from Peter to pay Paul.
Did she hide any money?
Did she hide any money?
Yeah, about $2 million, right?
No.
Well,
she has. We created a reserve account for retirement payments. The thing that
good.
Yeah.
Because if you get it doesn't do any good to balance a budget on next year's taxes.
No, it doesn't.
If you know you've got a commitment you have to pay for.
Right, and the thing that's hurt school districts over the last several years is the amount that school districts have to contribute to the retirement fund every year, which has gone up, sometimes 10-15%, and which means then you got to take it out of next year's budget. But we had some money, and we put it into a dedicated account for this to cover the anticipated rise that the state's going to put on us in the near future for the retirement accounts. So
well,
that's a good thing. We did not have to cut programs. We covered a couple of bubble classes that we have next year. A bubble class is a 1-year aberration in population in a particular grade that you have to account for, and we've got a couple of those, so we're going to be covering those. We also were able to put money into this new program that we're part of for with BOCES. It's a P-TECH program. There'll be 13 incoming freshmen, this year's 8th graders, who are going to be part of the program, who from their freshman year on will begin taking college courses as well as high school courses simultaneously to get degrees through FMCC. They're focused on math, engineering, and business, as well as a couple of science areas up there. So it's going to, you know, we required every year to provide, excuse me, programming for those students who are not doing well. And this was an opportunity to begin to provide funding for students who do exceptionally well, to encourage kids to study
do exceptionally well.
Do exceptionally well in STEM, science,
You
technology,
got a head start
engineering,
and
and math.
save a few bucks in
Right.
college.
So that's those are the highlights. We've got 4 people running for 3 positions on the school board. There's 3 incumbents. Peter Pritchard, Reverend Kent McCurd, and Dr. Nellie Bush are running, and we have an Andrea Prusky who is running. So there's 4 people running for 3 positions.
Okay, and the new person, what do you know?
She has, I think she's got 3 of her own kids and 2 stepchildren in the school district. She's a concerned parent. She's interested in programming in the district and the community. She's also a taxpayer, which everybody who runs for the school board is. So they're always looking at, you know, trying to get your biggest bang for your buck in terms of what we do in taxes. The other thing that helped the budget was that we got money from Target.
Target the company?
Target, yeah. They had to make a payment to us. And we also got money from BeachNut because they did not reach a projected goal that they were required to have for their pilot, and therefore they had to pay a fine, and that came into the budget. So you can't.
So in other words, when the company does bad, it's good for the school district?
Well, yeah, specifically, but if they did well, it'd be good because then you'd have more people paying into it.
Okay.
They did not reach their quota of number of employees that they were required to have. So we'll see how the budget vote. I got my card in the mail this week. It told me I vote up at Lynch this year because there's only 4 polling places.
Yeah, you know, we got ours the other day. I haven't even looked at them yet.
I think ours at Lynch also.
And you probably are at Lynch too.
Well, I would think so. We're in the same voting district, aren't we?
Yeah. So I would think it's a
happened.
little white card.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Wow. So check your cards, everybody, if you're going to. When is the vote?
It's on the 20th, I believe. I got so many dates, but I believe it's the 20th. No.
19th?
It's the 20th. Tuesday the 20th, yeah, 'cause we have our school board meeting on the 21st. So in 2 weeks, we'll have a chance to vote on the budget. And there's also a repeating proposition on the ballot as well, whether we should give $5,000 to the 400 library. That's up there.
That's the only other proposition on the ballot?
That's the only other
I thought there was something else on there.
No buses?
No buses.
No?
No buses.
No capital improvements?
No. We got, and this one's on every year, and every year that one comes up short on votes.
And votes, yeah.
Yeah.
No.
So we'll see. So
I always
hopefully,
vote for it. I like libraries. Oh boy, did we bring a ton of books down to
yeah.
The Amsterdam Free Library sale. I think it was again this weekend. Is it this weekend? Yeah, I think so. Saturday, I believe. Of course, the last book sale they had a few months ago, I filled my trunk with books that I bought.
now you're recycling.
Some that Mary doesn't even know about yet. They're still in the trunk of the car. But I come across stuff that's valuable in my research for these books I'm writing or thinking about writing. So, or just stuff I like. I can't resist a good book. So. Yeah. Oh yeah, I've been busy. Oh yeah.
Busy's good.
We brought a couple loads now. Well, you accumulate all these things over the years, and there's certain things that I'm sure other people would like to read that I'm not likely to read again as much as I like them. I even let go of my copy of To Kill a Mockingbird, I think.
Really?
I know I pulled it out and put it back and pulled it out and put it back, but I think I ultimately put it...
Is that the copy you purloined from Bishop Scully when you were a student there?
No. It was actually a fairly new copy. I think it was
Oh.
Louise's copy when she was in
okay.
high school. But I'd never read it till a couple of years ago. It's just one of those things that just, there's certain things you just miss, that you know, you're meaning to, I'll read this someday, and then you never get around to reading it. And it was
I never read it.
terrific. A terrific piece of writing. You know, it's a wonderful movie, as you know.
Yeah.
But there is not a wasted sentence, phrase, or exclamation point in that book. I mean, every page is entertaining on some level. I mean, some of it is sadly entertaining, but some of it is amusingly entertaining. But it grabs you, and it was one of those books that I had to put down and pick up and put down and pick up because I didn't want it to end. You know, because I knew when I got to the end of
it's over.
When it's over, and that Harper Lee has not written another word since 1960 when she wrote that book.
A one-hit wonder.
It's remarkable. You know, I mean, the rumors are that, you know, it may have been partly ghostwritten by her best friend, but even so.
It's a great book. Regardless of the source, it's a great book.
The kid who comes to visit next door and spend the summer with his aunt is modeled after the real kid in her youth, who was Truman Capote.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you know, one of the great 20th century writers and eccentrics. And she used to actually, she went on to work for Truman Capote as his editor or something at some point. Who the heck knows? Maybe the Truman Capote stuff was written by her.
There you go.
Or polished by her. But, just terrific piece of writing.
Who polished your book? Who polished yours?
David.
Me and the wife, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah. When I put the rough copy together, I printed up 2 copies of it, handed one to her, and she was in one room and I was in another, and we went through it with pencil, marking this, move this, cut this, da 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 da, and we got back together and we said, this really stinks. And we agreed on most every needed change. Mary was very helpful on that.
Oh.
Always got to have an extra set of eyes looking at these things. Yeah. David gave me some good hints on. When I was at the point of putting we're talking about, of course, my book, Where Do We Find Such Men, about Amsterdam in World War II. The principal problem I had is that it's backfilled. The second half of the book, if you're doing the war chronologically, is where all the action is. You know, because the first couple of years, they go off to boot camp. They get to the point, right? Yeah. So he says, don't start it with the parade, them going off to war. Start it with some action. So I moved Pearl Harbor to page 1. And did that whole story, and then went back and filled in and talked about Amsterdam, and then got back into the action, and that made a huge difference style-wise.
You got to get a hook in there to get people into it to hang on.
Yeah.
Oh, she did a good job editing it then.
Yeah, it's a good book.
It's a good book.
Very good book.
Yeah. I recommend it. It's available at the old Peddler's Wagon, and there must be a lot of copies available because they didn't give me a royalty this month. So either that or they're just sitting on it, or we haven't checked the phone.
Summertime coming.
So let's see what else is going on. Oh, I see. I'm on a charter commission since last we talked.
Yes, you are.
Officially?
I think
Well,
so.
they overrode
I haven't signed the oath of office yet, but
They overrode her veto, so
Okay, then if rules are followed, then you should be on it.
yes, but
Now-
Valerie Beekman voted no.
that's right.
Now,
She, it's quite obvious that she is a cheerleader for the mayor because she has yet to vote against something that the mayor has proposed and something that the other
Or to
council
override a
members-
veto.
Yeah, or something the other council members agree on, she does not agree with.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's all right. I mean, she was the only
Oh, yeah.
Democrat on the council.
yeah, but I mean, it's obvious that she's very political.
Yeah, well,
Now, if we've had charter commissions in the past, why haven't how come everything hasn't been cleared up under those commissions?
well, things pop up you don't expect. It's like how do the rules of baseball get to be? Because somebody does something that no one expected. Do you remember there was a game where the guy, it was Jimmy Pearsall, I think. Wasn't it Jimmy Pearsall when he ran the bases backwards? And there was nothing in the rules against it?
Right, because that was his 100th home run when he ran the base. He ran the bases backwards. He didn't run the bases backwards. He didn't go from home to third to second to first. He went from home to first running backwards.
Oh, then that's not it. Somebody else got to first base via third base, and that's why they put in a rule. Jimmy Pearsall actually was running backwards.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought he wrote the. Well, somebody did. Somebody did the bases the other way, third to second to first. But that's how these things pop up.
Right.
For example, the rules of baseball never anticipated the situation that occurred in the minor leagues a couple of years ago, where you had a switch pitching pitcher facing a switch hitting batter.
Right.
I mean, switch pitching pitchers are very rare to begin with.
Yeah.
But there was this pretty decent pitcher in the minor leagues who had a special glove, and if he's facing a right-hander, he pitches right-handed. If he's facing a left-hander, he pitches left-handed. So then the switch hitter comes up, and he puts the glove on the one hand, the batter gets on the other side of the box, and he puts the glove on the other hand, and the batter switches back and forth. And this was, about 15 times, and there was no rule in existence for the umpire to call.
Who had to go first?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So ultimately, he said the pitcher had to choose. I would have ruled the other way. So you're getting the batter's box. You've made your commitment because because the pitcher's not moving, he's just changing his hands. The batter is actually moving from one place to the other.
Well, of course, the sandlot rule, you can't switch sides of the plate after 2 strikes. Because you'd have kids who were pretty good when you used to play up on the 4 diamonds, and they'd come up and they'd want to hit left-handed, they get 2 strikes and they go back to the right side. You can't. The sandlot rule is you can't do that. Whatever you start, you got to finish like that.
And that's a good rule.
That's a good rule.
And if they had used that rule, that would have settled that issue.
See, yeah. Well, no, because he hadn't thrown any pitches yet in the minor leagues.
Because what?
He hadn't thrown any pitches on the batter, so the batter didn't get 2 strikes on him.
Oh, well,
they started from the get-go on that.
Yeah, that's true. That's right, because yours assumes 2 strikes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, but anyway, that's the point. That it's only when things pop up that you realize that there might be a problem, because it's a somewhat lengthy document.
And it's kind of like having a constitutional convention, because it's something the Constitution needs to be changed, and do that. Okay, that's a good answer.
And particularly, not so much now. The charter commissions are getting farther and farther apart as time goes on, and
much as the parties are.
But the '79 charter that is the basis for what we're working with now was a complete revision. As a matter of fact, it was they just tossed the old charter and started from scratch. Really, when you get right down to it, it took no language from the previous charter. What language it took from the Gloversville city charter. So that a charter like that's completely fresh and brand new and changes everything you ever did before is going to have a lot more things to look at in the short term and less in the long term as you move on. So that by 1982, when it had only been in effect 2 or 3 years, there were a lot of things that we looked at in that charter. I mean, there were some major things, like the '79 charter put in a water board, for example, an independent water board, which was going to completely separate legislative body from the Board of Aldermen. And then they hired their own people, managers, and and bought cars and all this stuff, all of which is outside the purview of the mayor and the common council. So, do we really want this? That went on the ballot. Well, no, we don't want that. The 79 charter was an up or down proposition. You either took it all or you took nothing. And I think most people would recognize that the biggest selling point of the 79 charter is that it went from 8 aldermen to 5. Nobody liked everybody else's aldermen. So, hey, we can get rid of 3 of those guys anyway.
And we can't have.
My opinion, that was the biggest mistake that was made. Because as wacky as eight people squabbling in a room can be, you get more of a divergence of opinion and thought and push and shove, and frankly, I think that it worked better. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. We're not. As I said on one of my Facebook comments, I'm essentially a Burkean. I follow the conservative theories of Edmund Burke, of the 18th century political philosopher and member of Parliament, I believe. And that is, you don't change. You don't go for the radical change like the French Revolution. You smooth this out here, smooth that. Take that which is working or mostly working, and leave it alone, and only change those things that really need changing, and then gradually, experience will tell you more as you go along, because frankly, nobody has the entire experience necessary to say what should be done at any given point. So. I also don't believe that decisions on forms of government should be based on who's currently holding office or who's anticipated to be holding office. In other words, it shouldn't be based on the personalities whatsoever.
Position.
It would be easy to say, well, let's eliminate the office of mayor, and then you've got the problem solved, right? One problem solved. Might create a couple others.
Now, I was under driving down by the river today, I see that they're working on both sides of the river. I was under the impression that the north side of the river was going to have some issues because of the archaeological dig that had taken place there. But boy, they're digging deep into the archaeology, aren't they? Right through it without any. I thought
they must have finished their.
He must have thought it was nothing that important.
I think my understanding is that the archaeological area is closer to the creek than where they're working. Although I haven't been down there. I just saw a picture on the internet yesterday, but it looks to me like they were working at where the old bridge used to be.
Looks pretty close to that, but yeah. I just find it hard that if it's on 5 feet, it's going to be on 10 feet too. If it's on 10 feet, it's going to be on 15 feet. But they're down there working hard, and same thing on the other side of the river. So.
Yeah, it surprises me that absent a careful archaeological dig, they're going in there with steam shovels and such. As you know, the archaeology the preliminary archaeology that was done was fascinating. That they were finding evidence, and it makes sense. I mean, let's face it, in the olden days, if you're in a hunter-gatherer situation, the mouth of a creek is a good place to go fishing, and it's also a good place to start your trip into the wilderness, because the natural path is along the creek.
That's right.
So if you're going to, essentially going to Saratoga County, you're going to be going up the Chuctanunda Creek Valley, going hunting up there, etc.
Yep.
And with all the flint and everything down by the riverbed, that would be a good spot to be making their arrowheads and spearheads and whatever.
They found a lot of real old artifacts in there.
So old,
5,000 years
yeah,
old?
to put it in perspective, they have found evidence of human civilization at the mouth of the Chuctanunda Creek that dates back to before the pyramids were built in Egypt. That's pretty astonishing when you think about it. Yeah. So, wow.
So the project has started
Yeah.
in earnest, and it should be done next year.
Should be interesting.
Yes, it should be.
Still doesn't go anywhere.
I hope to build a hotel for all those people that are coming in.
Well,
The casino might be able to accommodate part of that.
Well, yeah, that's true. Well, the casino is going to be a few years off. And they've got so many people coming in to go to the casino, there will be no room for the gawkers on the bridge
wow.
if the casino comes in, which I doubt.
Well, maybe the casino should only be open in the winter when the bridge is going to to be closed anyway.
There you go. There you go.
You'd have
Yeah, they
year-round
can figure-
usage.
That way they can share the hotel space.
Yeah, they can
Yeah.
figure something out. Of course, I doubt whether the casino's going to come in, but
It could.
it's
possible.
It could. It's possible, but I would say highly unlikely.
It meets, for sure, all the criteria that have been laid out for the location of the casino. You know, they're looking to have it be someplace where it's going to be a major impact on employment. There's
Right.
going to be an upgrade to the areas that it was coming into. That the place it went into would have to have easy access to it, which
It certainly has easy access. There's no question about that.
absolutely.
It's kind of centrally located in the territory we're talking about,
Yeah.
although it is, relatively close to Turning Stone, so it's got some competition there. I wonder. You wonder what they're thinking. The people. Well, let's assume that this will be decided objectively and not because of who owns the property and all that stuff. Let's assume it's going to be decided objectively, for the sake of appearing noble. It's not going to happen, but assuming it's done so, objectively, I wonder how much thought they're placing in drawing from Vermont and Massachusetts and Connecticut. Whether something like in the Rensselaer area might have a leg up because
they're closer.
I don't know. Of course, people go from here to Connecticut to gamble all the time.
Down to Mohegan Sun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing, the north-south venue to get to, or the traffic to get to the casino where it's located is the thruway, which is 15 miles away, Northway, 15, 20 miles away, because the Route 30 route, north and south, would not be ample enough to bring the number of people in that they're expecting to come in.
Right.
And that would really tie up traffic in the city coming from north. That's another thought. The only way to get there is either I-88 and up to 30 south, or the thruway.
Well, I think you got to figure the thruway is going to be number one by far.
Well, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I don't know.
So I don't know. It's and economically.
Now, where's the other? The other thing is, where are they going to place the one in the Catskill region? If it's in the northern Catskills, or the.
Aren't they talking about down there where the Borscht Belt places were?
But that covers kind of a wide territory. And again, so you don't want them too close to each other. I don't think they really care about the Indian one, other than the Indian one is going to take some business away. And how big is our region? Goes at least as far south as Howe Caverns. I would think the Catskill one's got to start on the other side of that.
And they're going to be pulling from Connecticut down that way too.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much thought to give to that. But you're right, we'll be getting some north travel from Vermont and Massachusetts perhaps. But it's easy on, easy off right here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. You know, and
Was it too easy and too easy to get off and on there, because the traffic tie up there would be horrendous
where?
on exit 27. The traffic tie up would be tremendous.
Well, maybe that's why they're rebuilding the whole exit thing right now.
Yeah, they are. They are. You know, and it'll be bumper to bumper traffic all the time. You're going to have a reasonable amount of consumers entering and
the first
leaving.
of the month when the Social Security checks and
Well, you know, see, but that's going to hurt business, because they're not going to be going to Stewart's and playing all the lottery tickets that are in there.
Well, it could be.
You know,
Yeah, except we'll be drawing the people from outside the area. That's the whole point.
Okay, so all right, we'll draw those in. You know, somebody was saying,
But
you know,
yeah, I can see McDonald's may empty out, and they'll probably make a lot more money because all those tables won't be taken up now.
there you go.
by people sitting around talking about stuff. You know, they were saying the other day, you know, that this is going to create gamblers and feed the habit. Look at it. People gamble all day, every day already in every town and village in the state with the state's lotteries that are going. This is not going to make somebody a die-hard gambler. The people who are, and those who aren't, they'll come by once a year and drop their money.
It'll create some hardcore gamblers, because now the people, I want to go up to Turning Stone, I want to go here, but they don't go because they don't have the transportation, they don't have the ease of going up there. But you get one,
People will be walking over.
Exactly.
They'll be using the pedestrian area of the
bridge.
existing bridge faster than you've ever seen. In fact, they'll be demanding new sidewalks all along Route 30.
yeah, there will be some impact in the city gambling wise. That's for sure.
Well, I think the whole concept is a good thing, and if we get it, we're going to be fortunate to have that.
Speaking of concepts, you know, I've spoken out about my thoughts about artificial turf in baseball in the past, and I nonetheless lent my support to the project at Shuttleworth Park.
We saw that.
What you're saying is you're a flip-flopper.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not. I just aesthetically, I didn't like the idea, but economically,
I know.
it made relatively good sense. Well,
Okay.
the missus and I went to the opening of the turf the other day.
And?
Amsterdam High was playing CBA, and they used the turf field for the first time in action. Very impressive. The thing that made me choke is when one of the Spagnola boys said, "Well, it's going to be just like Toronto." Toronto is awful. It's like one green carpet that is like 1970s kitchen carpet. Okay, you remember that era when maybe it was even the 60s, the era when everybody was putting carpets in there. Oh, this is great, indoor, outdoor, stain-proof. It was awful. Take it from one who was in the rug cleaning business, that there was nothing worse than a kitchen carpet. They were easy to clean because the tight weave, but. Carpets do not belong in your kitchen. You drop an egg on it, and there it is. You don't just sweep it up. You have to scrub it out, and all that. So forget it.
Yeah, we pulled ours out.
That's what the Toronto stadium looks like. This is not that, and plus the ball plays
True.
way faster on the most of those baseball artificial turf stadiums, the traditional AstroTurf. So the people who are used to playing on grass are going to get a completely different, you have to stand further back because the ball's going faster. Well, this is not that at all. This plays like grass. Whatever improvements they've made, and of course they put, I don't know, the underlayment that they put in, the drainage and everything else, before laying the turf was really deep. I would say probably about 4 feet deep. And as a result, what you have is a really good-looking field that goes, that has an infield that is, you know, you got lines that are brown. The only dirt in the infield is a pitcher's mound. Even the plate, I think, is permanently placed. But it looks great. It plays great. And you know, you can't ask for anything more, I think. And the maintenance is like next to nothing.
Well, if that's the case, then they can lower the recreation budget by $15,000 to $20,000.
Well, that's what Robbie said. He said you could lower it by about $10,000, is what he said. Yeah.
Let's see what happens.
So the only grass is in the outfield, and that's even, you know, quite a ways out.
It's out there.
Yeah. Now a couple interesting things. In setting up the field, they obviously had to take accurate measurements because you're laying a rug, right?
Yeah.
So it had to be as accurate as could possibly be. Well, turns out the left field foul pole is about 6 feet off of where it should be.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Out or in?
It's in, so that you know, they built that green monster out there with the high fence, and to the left of that, there's now about 6 feet of 3 foot fence where you can sneak a home run in. And the reason that happened is that for Brian says for the last 40 or 50 years, third base has been about 6 inches too close to second base, and so they lined up home plate to third base, and they put up that wall out there in line with third base. Well, by the time
they got it right.
By the time you that 6 inches in the infield spreads out to 6 feet at the tail end there. So
the fence doesn't go to the pole.
So eventually they're going to have to put up a whole nother section of high fence to make up the difference. So right now it's a little awkward.
All right.
They seem to have added more seating again. You know, the seating capacity is great up there right now.
Now the infield is where the dirt used to be. It's artificial turf now, correct?
All artificial.
How do you slide on that?
How do you what?
How do you slide on the artificial turf like that?
I'm not sure. I guess it's soft. You know how the football field is?
They showed on the newspaper that they were spreading sand and
Rubble.
Filler. Yeah, ground up tires.
over top of the
Which settles in. Yeah. It's soft like the football field. Have you walked on the football field?
Yeah.
At the high school? You know, if anything, it's a lot more comfortable than if you were. I don't think you're getting rug burn on this, if that's your question.
My question is, do you get rug burn on this?
I don't think so. Okay. I can't say that I noticed anybody sliding because no, there wasn't that kind of play on while the 3 innings we were there. That's a good question, though. But I'll tell you, if you go leaping for a fly ball and hit the turf going for the ball, it's going to cause you a lot less damage than if you landed on the hard clay of the natural earth up there.
Is foul territory grass or turf?
Foul territory is turf all the way out to the outfield. Yeah. Well,
okay.
Well, so
the outfield is turf, right?
the outfield is grass. Is regular grass. Yeah.
And they have to work on that one little middle stripe out to the outfield where the trucks are.
Well, yeah, you know the permanent part is this beautiful white line then you go into get into the outfield, and it's it's the chalk line, much shorter chalk line than they used to have, and it just fades right out in comparison. But what the heck? What the heck? And we saw some good baseball for 3 innings there too.
Shortened game? Or you only stayed for 3 innings?
We only stayed for 3 innings. Yeah. Yeah, we had things to do. We were going to New York the next day, so.
See, now, in conjunction with that, there was a whole lot of traffic on Facebook about the recreation softball program in the city.
Yeah.
If you're not aware of that.
Now, are you involved in that?
Yes, I are.
Okay.
Yes, I are.
Yeah, I understand the fields were in pretty horrible condition for the opening ceremonies.
Yeah, they were, and to be honest, they have been. Over the last several years, the maintenance of those fields has gone way down.
Where do you play?
Now, up in the Four Diamonds.
All right. All the games are played on the Four Diamonds?
All the games are played on the Four Diamonds.
You use 2 of them, or
three fields? Yeah, we don't use the baseball field in the corner. We use the other fields. And
which one is the baseball field? The interior corner or the Bun Street?
Interior corner. Yeah. You got the softball fields by McNulty, by Lindbergh and Brandt, and one by Joe Riley's house.
Yeah.
Better description. Those are the 3 fields that are still in use, and it's the recreation department's responsibility to, though they are school district fields, the recreation department is responsible for maintaining them throughout the course of the season, which means the fields are chalked, the fields are leveled and
dried.
And dried. Now, everybody recognized that the week prior to the opening of the season, we'd had a lot of rain.
A tremendous amount of rain.
Okay, which happened last year, the second week of the season, and that ran for 3 weeks of horrible rain. And the issue has become one of not utilizing your manpower to get the fields playable. One of the arguments put up against why it wasn't done, well, we couldn't get the heavy equipment out there. Well, to be honest with you, when 3 guys from a team can go up there an hour and a half, 2 hours before the game and take out some squeegees and rakes and shovels and get the field playable, the argument is moot whether you need heavy equipment. You don't. We live in the great Northeast. We recognize it rains from time to time here. And it's a very simple solution. You go up in the morning, you get the water off the field, then you come back for an hour later on in the afternoon after it's dried up a little bit.
And toss dirt and rake.
Toss dirt, rake, and put the lines on.
Yeah.
There was several pictures last year that were taken of the field that probably in my worst college night after a Friday tried to lay a straight line would have been straighter than what was placed there. And the concern that all the players have is there's no desire on the part of the city recreation department to even do an adequate job on the field.
How many teams you got playing this year?
We've got 17 now.
17?
17.
All right.
Okay, and they combined it all in one league. Now, just to put in perspective, and I know the parameters on this, but there used to be 64 teams.
Right. Not that long ago.
Not that long ago. And there was a women's league as well as the 64 teams in the men's league. And we recognize there aren't as many softball players as there used to be. Okay, we can understand that. But the fact of the matter is, the teams pay a fee.
Right.
I believe it's $350 per team to have the league, which is supposed to take care of the maintenance and the softballs for it. Out of pocket every game, each team has to pay $20 per team to pay the umpire.
Right.
So other than scheduling the games, the city doesn't pay for that. But there is absolutely no effort put into trying to keep those fields playable during the summer. And it's a recreation league. Guys go out there and have fun. We've got some of us that have been playing for almost 50 years out there playing, or we call it playing. We're trying to play.
Yeah.
You know, and it's really gone down. And oftentimes the explanation or the feeling is, yeah, because it's all going up to Shuttleworth. All the work goes into Shuttleworth. Regardless, if we have that or we don't have that, they are getting money from the league to run something, and it should be run as best it could, and it hasn't. We've had days where it's rained at 10 o'clock in the morning a little bit, and we go up there at 6 o'clock, and it's not playable because they didn't bother trying to get the water off. And when you leave it to players to get the water off, they will get the water off. But each time they do that, you've got little depressions that get made on a field. So what happens the next time it rains? That's where it gets filled up. We'll get the water off, and we get the water off, and you have another depression because it's not being maintained properly. We're maintaining to the best of our ability so we can play that night. And the city just has not shown any desire to do anything with that.
What was the fundraising they had at the radio station this past?
That's for the Little League Baseball program. It plays up at up at Hassan Foss's Field.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. For other people, it's Isabel's Field, but it's Hassan Foss's Field.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what that was, because we live in a land of laws and regulation. Somebody went up there to the concession stand last year and noticed that when it was built, they didn't have a fire suppression system in there, so if one of the fryers caught on fire, it could be put out. And because somebody noticed it and said something about it, now they have to put it in.
They close it up.
They close it up. You can't use it for preparing anything until
no
that
hot
gets taken
dogs,
care
no
of.
nothing.
Yeah.
All right.
That's what the fundraiser is for?
That's basically what the fundraiser is for, so they can then do that in 2 months. You know, when you come into the city, you drive by Lynch Middle School, wonderful facility. You drive by Shuttleworth, wonderful facility. You go to Hassan Foss's Field, what great facilities we have here that individuals, private individuals, have invested their time in to provide you. And you don't go anyplace else. You know, you talk to the coaches and players, they'll go to Colony, they'll go to Albany, they'll go to Troy. They're not playing on a field like Hassan Foss's Field.
Right.
Okay, those are beautiful.
Yep.
They've got a batting cage. They've got 2 fields there, one for the T-ball and the minors, and the other one. You know, it's wonderful. You know, when we were kids, you know, Hassan Foss was a great place. They had that wooden fence. It was a great thing, but it's so much more now. You know?
Yeah.
It's absolutely great. It's bigger and.
You know, when Joey rebuilt it, about 25 years ago, 20 years ago.
That,
you know, he got that Georgia clay that they use in the major leagues to put in the infield in that park. You know, it's
great. You got parking there now,
and you know, you talk about other outside people being impressed. Usually, you know, those CBA fans that were at the game were just overwhelmed by this park.
Yeah.
And you know, even before the artificial turf, there are few venues more conducive to watching a baseball game than Shuttleworth Park, and it's been that way for 100 years.
It has, because
it's in that natural amphitheater to begin with. So you're surrounded by these hills and trees and the creek running alongside it, and it is just as pleasant an atmosphere for watching a ball game as you're ever going to get.
And you know, and then when it used to be Shuttleworth, you know, you had that great big green fence, and you had that the green box. You had the screen on the top and left field, the short porch, and you had the scoreboard out in right field. You know, that looked like a major league stadium. I mean, it was great. I mean, you know, you can think we used to go up there watching. It wasn't thousands of people, but people would go up and watch the game. It was great. They had a flagpole out in center field. It was as far away as center field in the Polo Grounds was.
Right.
You know.
Right. And in those days, it was in fair territory. The flagpole's still there, but it's there's a fence. It's on the other side of the fence now.
The flagpole was in fair territory.
Flagpole?
Well, the monuments in Yankee Stadium used to be in fair territory too.
Yeah.
You know.
I remember. Sheppy Romano it's the only hit I remember him getting. But he hit one out past the flagpole, and it was rolling around. And the flagpole, I think, was at 408.
Yeah,
or something.
it was 400
And I
feet.
think the fence was 420 or something at that point in deepest center field. It was incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible distance.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, and we still have, we have some great facilities here that we tend to overlook and tend not to give credit to like we should. We've got some people in the community who are negative about everything, but we've got some positive, and you have to remember that and put those to the forefront. And
you know what? This would be a good time to give full credit to our friend Mike Chiara, who more than anybody other than Brian Spagnola was responsible for getting the grants and the improvements made to Shuttleworth Park. And he worked on it continuously, and now they have this foundation set up to instead of just filling the potholes. That's the one place where we're actually doing something that is improving year after year after year. Every year there's more room for people to park. There's more room for people to watch the ball game. It gets more comfortable. They've now got that running track along the creek there that kind of circles the park. I was talking to Robbie about the plans eventually to put in a footbridge from the back, from like center field out to that other parking lot area that they have on Crescent, and give him some hints on where he could get most of it for free too. So I hope he follows up on that, and I hope I'm right. But that gives you some hope in the community. And as I say, other people coming in. Let me tell you, there is not a ball field in that perfect game league they're in now that can compare with ours. Nor do they draw the crowds that ours does.
Absolutely not.
And all the money that the Mohawks have put into that park with the improvements and paying for a good chunk of this turf, if not all of it. They only play 25 games a year there. The other 100 games are played by other teams and other leagues and pickup games and things like that. Tournaments.
You got the high school teams use it in the spring, and in the fall you've got the wooden bat leagues that play down there.
Wooden bats.
Yeah, it's called a wooden bat league. They're the older guys, guys in their 20s and 30s. And
old
guys.
guys.
Older guys that you have to use wooden bats and down there and play. So I mean, it gets a lot of use. There's not as many people playing as there used to be that we've gotten used to. I mean, you remember when we were kids, you had the Four Diamonds field, and you had the one at Cousins Park. You had the rookie league. I mean, that was big to do, the rookie league back then. And there was teams.
The population you had back then.
You had a bigger population. You had more playing. That's the age group that you lose most of the kids. When you're 14, 15, most of the kids aren't playing baseball on an organized team in the summer anymore. I mean, Bobby Settner just got the American Legion team, which is a high school age team, reorganized a couple of years ago. It used to be Bergen Post, and now it's Post 701. So you've lost a demographic group that used to play ball that they don't. But you're filled up there at Hassenfoss every weekend with ball games, whether it's league or tournaments. It's great, and people come up there from other places when they play, and they're looking like, wow, what a beautiful park you have here. We got some good things, and we have to highlight and recognize the good things that we have, and support the good things that we have,
yes.
and then try to make everything else better. Yeah,
right.
Fit in and
right.
make it better. So it's slowly we're getting there. But anything different always raises some controversy and challenges. But who had the worst turf? Well, the two worst turf fields were Cincinnati and Philadelphia. They were absolutely the worst of those. Do you know who made the first AstroTurf for the Astrodome?
Mohawk carpets?
Mohawk carpets, you betcha they did. Yes, they did. Yeah.
Did your grandfather design that, did he? Or?
No, he didn't. He didn't design it, but my dad worked on the project.
Is that right?
Had that? Yeah, yeah. That was a big to do. And do you remember why they had to put AstroTurf in there?
I think because of the weather, wasn't it? They couldn't. Well, first of all, it was an enclosed stadium.
Yeah.
So there was no sunlight to grow grass.
That's right, because that's what they first put in.
Yeah.
They put grass in, and it didn't. It was dying. They couldn't figure out why. And that's what they
Get no sunlight.
Right. So then they go and they put the AstroTurf in. Then you have to go back and paint all the glass panels up top and white them out. Then of course that caused problems because
Right.
couldn't find the ball.
Couldn't find the ball.
You know what the first home run in Astrodome?
Nope.
Mick Mantle used to
Really?
play center field for the Yankees.
Yeah.
They played an exhibition game down there.
I was going to say, what was he doing playing in the Astrodome? Okay.
Yeah,
Exhibition game.
Yeah, exhibition game. Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah, number 7.
number 7. Yeah.
I vaguely remember him.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was the 1950s, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Jeez.
He was part of that great trio in New York. The three
and he,
finest center fielders: Willie, Mickey, and the Duke.
incredible. Incredible.
You know, it was a great time to be a
Yeah.
sports fan in New York City.
And and then you got all those, those guys making up for lost time in World War II and and all that. And I think they were just playing a really high caliber game.
And integration just took place in Major League Baseball, and you had the finest stars of the Negro Leagues coming in and showing themselves. It was a great transition, a great time. And you're right, though. You had these guys come back from World War II. Teddy Williams came back. Bob Feller came back. Hank Greenberg came back. And you had some top flight talent playing in both leagues.
Yeah. Yeah. Hank Greenberg's in my book.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
That's where you found one of those men.
I mean, it's and it was strictly coincidental. When I started my research, I wanted to see. I did very limited research initially, and I wanted to see what was going on in Amsterdam the week before Pearl Harbor. All right, and one of the stories I came across, because everything was normal. Everything was normal up until that Sunday.
Yeah.
And one of the things I came across was that Hank Greenberg was getting out of the Army. They had drafted him. I forget how old he was at the time. He was like 30 or something. And they drafted him, during the season in 1941. And then Congress passed a law saying, okay, we're not going to draft anybody over 28. So Greenberg, the story was Greenberg was getting out of the service. This is like December 5, 1941. And of course, 2 days later, nobody's getting out of the service.
And everybody's going in.
And Greenberg did not pick up a bat again until 1945. Okay?
Wow.
And he managed to get out of the service in like August of 45. I think he batted like .450 for the rest of the season. And by this time, he's well in his 30s. I mean, he's like in his late 30s. He's older than 35, I think, at that point. And I didn't realize this when I'm writing the first part about 1941, but then when I'm researching the same newspapers for the following, it turned out to be the Hank Greenberg World Series, because he just came in, he hit home runs, he batted, 4-something for the series, Detroit wins, and he had, it's a lot like Williams. He had not picked up a bat in 5 years, or 4 years anyway, and comes back to be a superstar. Yeah. He's another one of those guys that. He hit a tremendous number of home runs during his career, and he lost 4 of his best years.
That's right. Teddy Ballgame did
And
too.
Teddy Ballgame lost 5, I think, of his best years.
Well, he lost
was
again
in Korea
Korea
as well.
You know. Now, if I remember right, there was some controversy about Williams going in.
Yeah.
He
was entitled to an exemption.
He was, and he was thinking about taking the exemption, and people had talked to him and said, and he did, and that, I think it only enhanced his legacy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he was the sole support of his widowed mother, even though he didn't like her very much. But
He didn't like anybody's us.
This was never really talked about, as far as I can tell, during his playing days. But he was really the first Hispanic superstar. His mother was Mexican. And of course, you wouldn't, looking at him, he was a dead ringer for his father, who I think was kind of a drunk and a wife beater, as I recall. But his dead ringer for his father didn't look at all like his mother, but his mother was full-blooded Mexican.
Didn't know that.
No.
Now we do.
Right.
The things you can learn on the show with no
On the
name.
show with no name. Well, it also helps that I'm a good friend of the co-author of Ted Williams' My Life in Pictures by Ted Williams with David Petruccia.
Noted baseball historian.
Noted. Then at the time he was a noted baseball historian. That's right.
Yeah.
Now he's a noted presidential historian. Yeah, he had a good week last week. He was chatting with Steve Forbes, and he's at the Coolidge Foundation dinner in New York.
Oh yeah.
Steve Forbes is looking forward to the 1932 book. He told me.
Yes. Which will be coming out soon.
Well, it's let's see, next year I think. I think it's due at the publishers in September, if I'm not mistaken.
Now, did you have that kind of issue with your book, having that deadline with your publisher to see it was
I set my
ready?
own deadline. I said it's time to get this book out before everybody in it has passed away.
You had an understanding publisher then.
Yeah.
Editor.
Of course, he's written, obviously several books before, quite a few books before this. So he's able to pitch a book with a chapter or two, where they accept it, and then he has to write it. Whereas I'm in a situation where I have to write the book, then pitch it.
And hope somebody.
Hope somebody will read it. People
Which they
read it,
have.
like it. Anyway, so let's see what else. I don't know. Did they do anything with? I guess they just laid those ordinances on the table about the chickens and the the other one.
The one with the chicken didn't get tabled, did it? I thought they just
Just laid on the table. So that was just introductory
just
purpose.
introduced. Yeah.
Yeah. What was the other one? There were 2 of them. We discussed them at great length on Tuesday's show.
The last one was the hiring freeze. That's the one they laid on the table.
Yeah, that was a different one. The golf one. Yeah, yeah. That was just to be put on the table also. That was just on for introductory purposes, and then they're going to have the public hearing on that next meeting, I guess. All right, I think pretty sure I set the first meeting for the Charter Commission for next Thursday, I believe. Thursday.
Where's that going to take place?
Somewhere in City Hall, either in the Common Council chamber or maybe the meeting room across the way. I'm not sure.
Now, who else is serving on the commission besides yourself and Marie Gavery?
Skaraki.
Jerry Scrocky, Marie Labatt, Marie Gavery. Okay, I know you've been married for a while, Maria. It's just, and I know it's to Paul. Just some things are.
That's right. They're there.
They're just,
Smile a while.
Smile a while. Let's see. Then there's.
I saw the names in the paper the other day, and I don't remember them.
There's a DeSenza, a Chase, and who's the other one? Anyway, all people I don't know. So I've mentioned the people I know.
And they all have fine resumes.
All right.
and
Yes.
No resumes. They didn't have to put in a resume.
But if they had to, I'm
Sure, they would have been
sure
fine.
find resumes.
The mayor's commission had to put resumes in.
Yeah.
Did she form a commission or?
Well, she's still thinking her people are urging her to do it, so.
Oh, really? Her people.
Well, she has a mirror. Yeah.
It wouldn't hurt.
You know, it is absolutely I don't see this as a partisan thing at all. I know she makes everything a partisan thing, but you know, she's had
well, she's
in her 7th year in office, and I can't help but believe that she has some ideas of her own, what she would like to see in the charter or not see in the charter. And I have absolutely no problem with entertaining anything she proposes and discussing it and putting it on the ballot.
Well, according to her, there's nothing in there that needs to be changed.
Well, she says that now, except in her court paper, she said there's all kinds of things that need to be changed.
Well, that was before she was against it. She was for it.
That's right.
Before she was for it, she was against
Whatever, you know, I mean, you know. She really is extremely partisan, and more so really than any mayor in recent memory.
it. Yeah, exactly.
But I don't care. You know, I'll do what I have to do. She does what she has to do, and let the people decide. Yeah, like it's me against her. I don't like them.
Yeah, but
like
from what I
anybody.
understand, the changes that are going to be made are just in clarification of some
I
of the
expect
things.
so.
Yeah. It's not really we're going to take anything out and put anything back in. I don't believe, unless they.
Well, if something interesting pops up.
Yeah, unless they come up with something I haven't heard about.
Whoever they is.
They.
Oh, let me swing over. I got a book I'm reading here. You know, I'm researching the Civil War.
I was going to say that looks like an old book.
It is an old book because I got this Civil War novel percolating in my head, and it's getting.
It gets stuck in there. You got to get it out.
No, it's coming together in my head. Yeah, I haven't written a word of it yet, but other than
you can see where it's going.
I can kind of see where it's going, and so this is one of the principal sources of this book. The
What's it
front
called,
piece
Bob?
has fallen off. This book was written in 1865. It's called "The Iron-Hearted Regiment," being an account of the battles, marches, and gallant deeds performed by the 115th Regiment New York Volunteers. And then the print gets smaller and smaller. I don't have my glasses on, so anyway, it's every surviving member of the 115th Regiment and their families got one of these books, including Mary's great-grandfather, Benjamin Thackeray, who was a Medal of Honor winner from this regiment. And that copy went to some collateral line of the family years ago, so we don't have it. But this one is inscribed for Mr. Seeley Conover, Amsterdam, New York.
Wow.
That's the Admiral's grandfather?
The Admiral's great-grandfather. And Seeley Conover, of course, founded the Seeley Conover stationery store, and had a brother who was also in the 115th who was killed in the war. Seeley was very active in the local GAR post, and was several times mayor of the city of Amsterdam and chairman of the board of supervisors. In fact, he was a pretty ripe old age when he was mayor of the city.
Yeah.
It was like in the late teens, considering that he was, in battle in 1862. That's, that's quite a stretch.
50 years.
Yeah, that's more than 50 years later. He was mayor. So anyway, it's an interesting read. It was by the regimental historian who was a lieutenant, and at times it's more of you know, his own autobiography or you know, his own journal of what's going on. But he, from what I've read so far, he covers the important events quite well. And there's some really good anecdotes in there. They get sent to Hilton Head, South Carolina. Now, you couldn't afford to even walk on Hilton Head today, you and I, right. Right? Okay. In those days, there was nothing there. There was just some plantations, and really Hilton Head got built up by the Union occupation. It was, you know, technically in South Carolina, but it was occupied by the Union throughout the war. You know, they had to give up Fort Sumter, but Hilton Head was not too far away, and they built up quite a force there and had a naval force there and a good port, and they used that, I think, as one of their central places for setting up the blockade of the southern states. So anyway, so he talks about the first night they get there, they haven't got time to set up tents and such, so they all sleep on the beach.
The stars.
Sleep in the soft sand under the stars. And then the next thing you're reading about is the bugs.
Yeah, the sand fleas.
So it's absolutely, yeah, the sand fleas and the gnats and the mosquitoes, and it's just brutal. And you know, and they probably were more tolerant of that stuff back then because you just lived with it,
yeah.
You know. But it just sounded just god awful. You know, and then they go to Florida and they're just slogging through swamps. Oh my God! You know, Mary's great grandfather's adventures are pretty cool. They've from what I gather, the chronology here, the regiment has already been routed in the Battle of Olustee, but they're still hanging around in Florida. And so a bunch of them are sent out to surprise a picket location of the Confederates deep in the swamp, you know, right? Mile, you know, they have to slog like 20 miles through the swamp through the night so that they're there at breakfast time. So they kind of, there's like 30 of them, and they surround the post. And Ben is a private, and he goes up to the wall. There's like one of these farm walls there, and he pokes his head up over the wall, and here's a Confederate rifle right in his face, and he knocks the rifle aside, knocks the guy over, starts running toward the cabin, which is the headquarters. He says, "Come on, men!" You know, and he barges into the room where they're all having breakfast, and he says, "I have you surrounded. Surrender your post." And there's like, you know, 75 of these guys there, and they said, "Oh, okay." And he looks around, nobody followed him.
Oops, all by himself.
He's all by himself, and he took the post single-handedly, and that's how he got his Congressional Medal of Honor. And and at the time, one of the guys was writing a letter home, and the last sentence he had written was, "Everything quiet here, nothing's happening."
There were a huge number of Congressional Medals of Honor given in the Civil War.
Yeah.
And the standards by which some of the medals were awarded were not under the quality that in the...
Right. There was like a whole regiment that got them. It was the only condition under which they would re-up for another 2 years is if they all got the Medal of Honor.
Yeah.
However, when he was awarded his, it was after they had changed the standards, and it wasn't until like the late 1870s before he got his award. So his was actually carefully reviewed, and it was done according to what they considered to be the proper standards. In fact, a lot of the Medals of Honor were withdrawn. I don't know that they ever gave them back, but they were. Yeah. But his was completely legit.
His was earned, okay.
Yep. Yep. So that's pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
I'm not going to play them up too much in the book, though, because my ancestor was on the other side.
If there wasn't another side, there wouldn't be a book.
There wouldn't be a book, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, there would be. I would have been writing about, it would have been entirely about the 115th, except somebody already wrote that book, not as a novel. But really annoying. I would, originally I planned to use this as a basis for a new history of the 115th.
Right.
And then some guy a few years ago went out and actually wrote it.
Hate when that happens.
Really annoyed the hell out of me.
I think you would have called.
I haven't read it either. I'm not going to read it. I'm not going to read it. I'm going to do my own. That way, if he wants to sue me afterwards and say, you plagiarized me. Oh, no, I didn't. I've never even read your book. So, that's the way it's going to be. Afterwards, I'll read it, and then I'll say, geez, I wish I had known that. Anyway, so, Mary, you want to discuss the trip to New York? No?
No.
Okay.
I was just wondering if there would be any archaeology finds at this end of the bridge.
What did she say?
And then it would have
She wants to know about the archaeology finds at the end of the bridge. If there's going to be any.
to, table that
Would anyone visiting the casino come across the bridge to Amsterdam and for what? Is that the question that's from last week?
No?
No.
She wants to know.
if they found any archaeological artifacts on this side of the river.
Oh, yeah.
With all the digging they're doing right now.
Oh, well, right now, I don't know.
We don't know.
We should go down there and check it out.
Would that be like a mural and have to suspend the project?
Yes, it'll be this ancient mural. Yeah.
Or they might
Yeah.
find-
What are all these? Can you see future archaeologists? What do all these painted hands mean?
They didn't have any paint, so it had to be carvings. See if there's any more carvings, like the face on the wall.
Well, the original.
Painted rocks.
The original painted rocks. I don't know what they used for that, but those were there for centuries.
Yeah, they use dyes from
Yeah.
vegetables.
Yeah.
It's
And I think my recollection. Correct me if I'm wrong, historian Murdoch, but the original painted rocks, I think, were a little bit to the west of the old bridge, weren't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they were.
So that means that whole area where they're digging now, all the way over to the Chuctanunda Creek, was
It was part of something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
I thought
I
the
don't
painted
see- I don't
rocks
like
were
this.
east of the bridge.
No.
They are now, but I don't. The new ones are, but
The
I don't
new
think.
one.
I think the old ones
one was.
were west of the bridge. Yeah. And they. I think they went down with the barge canal, didn't they? Or were they gone before that? The drawings we have of them date from the early 19th century.
So with that, the drawings were prior to the barge.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, who knows?
You know, think of all the.
They'll probably find them in somebody's basement someday. Yeah? Either that or they're probably buried right where they're digging up now. Probably the original painted rocks will come right up.
No,
I talked to somebody, an old timer one time, who said that in the spring before they put the dams down,
yeah.
They would go down by the north end of the bridge with shovels and dig up coins, because people would throw the coins off the bridge into the water.
For good luck?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
Or do they just fall out of their pockets? I don't know.
Oh. When you think of all the great spots that have been destroyed in the valley just because people just didn't
On the south side.
think about it.
On the south side, east of the bridge, there's probably a lot of antiques in the river there, because my uncle had an antique shop up down there.
Uh-huh.
And if the antique didn't sell within a certain length of time, he'd throw it in the river.
Really?
Get out of here. Yeah.
Tiffany lamps and shades and furniture that didn't sell, didn't move. You had to make room for the other stuff, so just throw it in the river.
Wow.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is
Why Jim McCosha?
uh,
Wow.
there's a lot of interesting old books at the Walter Elwood Museum and the library too. And I'm now trying to figure which one I read it at. But there was I don't know whether it was Montgomery County Historical Society or something like that, but it was, it was a report from early in the last century about different archaeological sites in the county. These amateur historians were, and there was a place in Tribes Hill near the bridge. That was kind of the edge of a cornfield or something on top of the hill, and all kinds of Indian pottery and things like that, and pipes, and they would go up there, especially in the spring when the farmers were plowing the fields, and and
good service pick.
There was no organization to it. It was just there. You went and you picked up what you wanted and added it to your collection. And what record of it was in that report I was reading. And after that, it was in somebody's attic or cellar or garage. And
the beauty part of that was that the farmers didn't care.
No,
you could go on their property and go through their fields. They didn't care.
And there were a lot of post hole diggers that did this. They'd go out to the field and take their post hole, dig down and pick the artifacts. And John Jakowski was a great one up in Tribes Hill. He went all over the Mohawk Valley with his post hole digger. And
is that right?
Yeah, and pick up stuff. Yeah, and there was a war between John Jakowski and Tom Constantino. You would go to an antique auction where there would be Indian artifacts. It was worthless. They were going to get at one of them. And each one of them wanted to own every Native American artifact that was ever found in New York State. And they battled every auction over, to be a broken projectile point that was worth less than a penny, and they want it.
Yeah.
And they would just go against each other, and they paid exorbitant prices for absolutely nothing because they were the ones who were gonna have them. And then Tom Constantino, had the collection down here. He's got thousands and thousands of pieces, and Jakowski had the other thousands and thousands of pieces. But John would go out with a post hole digger, and he'd pothole all over the valley. And there's a lot of criticism today of folks who did that because you destroyed any historical understanding of what was there other than finding something. That's
certainly not the way you would do it today.
No. Guys would walk.
On the other hand, if they didn't do it, somebody else was going to do it.
The item's going to be lost, period.
Right.
And these guys would walk the farmers' plow rows, and you'd find projectile points all the time. Or, I got a Jesuit ring I found like that.
Get out of here.
Yeah, I got a Jesuit ring from early 1600s that I found walking a farmer's row once. And,
it was probably Rene Goupil. You probably found the site.
I don't think it was there. There's just so much here in the valley.
When you consider that, mankind has probably been here for 10,000 years.
There's stuff.
That's a lot of time to gather junk.
A lot of stuff out there.
Yeah.
And
one of my father's friends, who was a lawyer and I think worked for him at Allstate, bought a big chunk of land outside of Catskill, New York, outside of Cairo, up in the hills, and a beautiful view up on the side of one of those mountains in the Catskills, and a lot of acreage. And we went up there one time, and it was just loaded with arrowheads and spearheads because it was one of those rocky areas where, hey, here it is, you make your arrows, hey, you don't like this one, you toss it away,
Yeah, it didn't come out right, yeah.
Yeah. It's the time of year when we make arrows.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some kind of organism, but it was, as kids it was fascinating. I don't remember, we must have walked away with some of them, I don't know whatever happened to this stuff.
There was a movie that came out right around the time of Dancing with Wolves. It didn't get the acclaim that got, but it was called Black Robe. And it was about a missionary who traveled with the Algonquins up on the St. Lawrence and had an encounter with the Iroquois down here. And it's a really excellent movie. the brutality of daily life
Oh, yeah.
is shown in there. It's like, how?
Yeah. That's another thing I'll probably never get on writing. But I was going to do write a screenplay of Jogues, Isaac Jogues, because he covers all that. Because he started out as a missionary to the Algonquins.
Yeah, and then he got captured by the Iroquois.
Yeah, and he got captured by the Mohawks and tortured horribly. They just chewed his fingers off, for sport. Ran the gauntlet 3 times, I think. But there's he's young, he's idealistic. He comes to the New World. He can't wait to go see the Indians, and he arrives in Lower Canada. There was Montreal or Quebec City or whatever it is, and he gets there just around the time that the guys he's going to be replacing are returning from the Algonquin missions, which are over by Lake Superior. And they all started out like him, a young, healthy, vigorous, and he sees them coming in the canoes, and they're all gaunt, aged, and this is what he has to look forward to. And the germ theory of disease did not come up for another couple of centuries, and nobody really understood how smallpox from the old world was being spread to the new world, and the Indians had absolutely no defense against it, no natural defense. And yeah, so they're ministering to the Algonquins are a pretty friendly tribe, and they're working trying to convert them to Christianity and baptizing them and things like that. But so many of them came down with smallpox and were dying, and the black robes, wanting to make sure that they made it to the hereafter, were baptizing them, regardless of whether they had gotten through all their instructions or not.
Sure.
All right? So they're baptizing them to welcome them into the next kingdom. Well, the medicine men are looking at this and saying, they perform this baptism act and then they die. So they're spreading the word that their magic is killing the Indians. Which I guess, if you're an Aristotelian, you examine all the facts. So clearly, this is what's happening, right? Mm-hmm. So they were in constant danger, even from the friendly Indians.
And your discussion of disease there, the valley got settled really in the early 1700s, but for over 100 years, disease had ravished the valley. And the numbers were so small compared to what they had been the previous century, and which is one of the places people get the misconception, well, there weren't that many of them here. Well, by the time we got to where they were, there weren't that many because disease had gotten there before, measles, and the pox.
Children's diseases wiped out
and they got wiped out before the white man really even got into these settlements. But in the movie Black Robe, Isaac Jogues does make an appearance in there. And,
so maybe somebody already wrote the story.
But
I'll have to find it.
I'll have to find the movie and like to take a look at it. But your comment about the brutality of everyday life, how hard that was. You read the tales about Robert Rogers and his battles with Indians in the French Indian War, and his men living out in the wilderness. It's 25 degrees below zero, and they're out there being tough out. Well, the people back home in their cabins were undergoing pretty much the same thing. It was just it was a constant struggle to live, and
just
survive.
To survive,
and
just to get through the winter.
Yeah, and how tough these. The
Indians would cover themselves in bear fat to get through the winter. Yeah. That was their insulation.
Jeez. There wasn't a whole lot of activity going on in the winter. It was.
It's not like they had heavy winter overcoats. I mean,
unless you had a bear robe.
The Mohawks only arrived in this valley about 50 years before the Dutch. They figure, you know, as best as they can figure. They were really late addition. The Mohegans had this territory before that,
Right.
and actually the great final battle between the Mohawks and the Mohegans took place in Montgomery County down by
Cranesville.
Wolf Hollow.
Yeah, Wolf Hollow Road, up there on the Indian Trail, and they got pushed. They kept getting pushed further and further east by the Mohawks.
Yeah.
Which cramped up things along the coast where the Pequots were.
Right.
Okay, now these guys, who's the
in fact,
interloper now?
They crashed into each other
Yeah.
because they were getting pushed the other way.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Poor Mohegans.
They got a son now, though. So.
I don't think
But
Chingachgook really was the last of the Mohegans. They kept the tribe still existed in the Hudson Valley for some years after that.
well, you know, you've got the Mohegans and the Mohegans.
Well, there's the Mohicans also, right?
Right, which sometimes
MA,
get thrown
yeah.
in there. So, who knows?
And the Hekawi.
Yeah. Where the heck are we?
Where the heck are we? Who are you? Where the heck are we?
You know, this isn't radio today, right? This isn't radio. This is podcast, right?
It's podcast.
You know, when Jimmy Carter was running for president, I was out on the Pine Ridge, and I was on the Rosebud Indian Reservation.
Okay.
I was teaching at St. Francis Indian School, and he came in to talk to the Sioux on the reservation about
Jimmy Carter himself?
Jimmy Carter himself came out, yeah. And they had him talk to the tribe down on the rodeo arena. And he's there, and we had the day off from school, and some of the kids even came over from Pine Ridge to listen to him. Burnett brought some of the boys over, and they listened, and Carter gets up there and he says, you know, my goal for the tribe is to bring in employment so people have jobs. And the Indians are listening to him talk, and he says something about, you know, what jobs are going to come in. And they start yelling, Washipi, Washipi, Tatanka, Washipi. And
I'm acting like I don't know where this is going. Go ahead.
And he went on to you know, talk about bringing improvements in transportation to the reservation, because frankly the road between St. Francis and Rosebud where I taught was a dirt road, and they had to bring that in. The Indians are yelling Washipi, Washipi, Tatanka, Washipi, and Carter's there just smiling away to his man, and they get off the platform, they're walking across the rodeo arena, and Bob Burnett, who was the tribal chairman, says, "Watch out, Mr. Carter, don't step into Tatanka Washipi." They knew from the get-go he was.
So was Jimmy Carter really there, or is this just a long setup for for a punchline?
It's a long punchline. I think when my father told me it was Teddy Roosevelt was out there.
Yeah. Hunga dunga. Don't step in the hunga dunga. I think that was the joke, which I think is why in one of the Marx Brothers movies, I think it's Coconuts, take a letter to my attorney, you know, my attorneys. Hunga dunga, hunga dunga, hunga dunga, hunga dunga, and McCormick. And they do this whole thing. And let's see, read that back. Hunga dunga, hunga dunga, hunga dunga, and McCormick. You left out one hunga dunga. And the most important one, too. But that's what makes me think that even by then, hunga dunga was already a euphemism for the
Tatanka Washipi buffalo.
That's correct.
That's right.
I'm also reading a history of the Indian Wars on the Great Plains, and you talk about brutality. Holy smokes! Wow.
Yeah. You're fighting for your life out there. You're fighting for your way of life.
And you know, before you know, a lot of people have white guilt on these things, but you know, to what it was like before we got here.
No different.
My God, they were just brutal to each other. It was only, I mean, the Iroquois Confederation was one of the great achievements of civilization, because it kept 5 tribes, originally and ultimately 6, from destroying each other.
Yeah.
It didn't keep them from whacking the Mohegans and the Algonquins whenever they got a chance.
No. And it didn't save them from ending up splitting because of the revolution either, you know. But for a time period, it was it worked. It worked. Yeah, it worked.
The one thing I've noticed, and especially in reading the ancient history, is the only times of relative peace and prosperity are when the empires come in. As bad as it may be to be run by somebody else, everybody is prospering with peace. A
little brutality thrown in there, but they're maintaining.
But if you, in those periods when there are no empires, it's like it's like Tribes Hill versus Fort Hunter for 1,000 years. You know that there is
Thane versus the council.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Only with
weapons.
Arrows. Yeah. Only with weapons.
Yeah. And it's been true
and you
throughout
know
history.
how do you solve this problem? Well, we annihilate them. The only way is to kill everybody.
Somebody's got to be in charge.
And when the empires came in, how do you solve these guys who are constantly revolting? Well, you kill all the men, sell the women and children into slavery, or you pick up the whole place and move it to the other end of the empire. In recent years, very recent years, there was a group of people in northwest India who claim to be Jews, and they've done the DNA and everything, and find that they are in fact one of the missing 10 tribes of Israel. The Assyrians just picked them up and moved them as far away in their empire as they could from where they were, and there they've been ever since.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What you can find out in the show with no name.
The show with no name. That's right.
The history lesson all the time.
That's right. So
now, since we're on podcast, we're not really on the radio today, I will share a true, though partially embarrassing story about a former family member. When I was married for the first time, we went out and we taught on the reservation. And my then wife's mother came out to visit. And her lifelong dream had been to go and see Mount Rushmore. And she was, if I was 24, she was 42 years old. And we
seemed ancient at the time, right?
Seemed ancient at the time, yes.
That's right.
Yes, but that's what she was. She was 42, and we got in her Volkswagen Beetle and drove out to the Black Hills to see Mount Rushmore. And as you go up the mountain out of Deadwood, every now and then, depending on which switchback you're on, you get little glimpses of what you're going to see. And the more that she saw it, the more excited she got. She just had her whole life a dream, besides marrying off her daughter, was to see Mount Rushmore. And we got to Mount Rushmore, we get out of the thing, and she says, I'm so excited, thank you very much. I wanted to do this all my life. I wanted to see this rock formation that looks like 4 of our presidents. And I said, pardon me? She says, yes, the Mount Rushmore.
Isn't it amazing?
I said, Barb, Gutenberg made this. She said, no, it's not. I said, no, a guy made this. And it was like she found out for the first time there was no Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny at the same time. She was
crushed?
Crushed. I crushed her whole life because she had believed her whole life that Mount Rushmore was a natural rock formation.
Wow.
And while we sat there watching the movie, she just had her head down, just shaking it. It just destroyed everything.
You destroyed it.
Yeah, I destroyed it. But for 42 years, she believed that was a natural rock formation.
Well, there was that old man in the mountain in Vermont until a few years ago.
Yeah, he cracked and fell.
Cracked and fell.
Yeah.
There's not much left of that lion's head on the South Chuctanunda Creek either.
No.
That shows up in the old postcards. You can find the spot. Somebody did recently. So yeah, somebody posted it on Facebook. Does anybody know where this is? I think I said I think it was on the South Chuctanunda, somewhere around the Route 5S bridge, and she went out and she lived. She lived right there. So she goes out that afternoon and actually found the spot lined up, but it's all almost all washed away. So, but the surrounding area was enough to line up with the picture. Well, these things happen,
Yeah. Yeah.
1,000 years from now, that natural George Washington might be dust. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? You ever seen the Crazy Horse?
I've never been there. I've seen the advancement it's made over the years. I don't know if it'll ever get finished. It's 5 times the size of Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
And that's at least is being done with the blessing of the Lakota out there, because the Black Hills are the Mahapasapa, the sacred mountains where life began, and also while we went to Rushmore at that time, there were units of the National Guard were stationed throughout the area because the AIM, the American Indian Movement, had threatened to blow up Rushmore on July 4, 1976, on the anniversary of our founding of our country, because they felt that was an invasion of their country.
Russell Means?
Russell Means, Dennis Banks, yeah. I was going to school one morning, this is true, this isn't, and there were helicopters that we saw, and one of the things that the white ranchers would often do was go and they'd run deer with their helicopters to shoot. Instead of doing it the old-fashioned way. And I presume that's what it was. When we got to school, Bernadette and Tammy Kilfoyle were there, and they were upset because that was the FBI came in. They flew down to a place called Crow Dog Paradise. It was Leonard Crow Dog's property. He was the spiritual advisor to AIM, and they came in and picked him up that morning in helicopters because he had escaped from Rapid City courthouse during one of his trials, and they finally located him on the Rosebud. The Rosebud and the Pine Ridge were the 2 major reservations in South Dakota. Pine Ridge were where all the activists were. Rosebud where things were quiet, but what it was is they were the safe houses.
Right.
And you'd come to school and you'd find out that Dennis Banks had spent the night 2 trailers away from we were because he was in one of the safe houses, and then you'd have Peltier come through, and there was a regular underground railroad to hide these guys because they had been participated in the shootout at Pine Ridge the previous year, and it was an exciting time to be on the reservation, to say the least, and. It seemed that the
what do you mean we, paleface?
we like that. That's Kimo Sabe, yeah. And it really, the less I questioned things and got interested in, the more that they showed me and the more they taught me. We had, I taught American history, I taught European history, I taught government, and the kids took the classes like that's what white guys do. But there was a Dr. Robert Geist. He has a PhD in Native American Studies. He taught the Indian history courses there. He had a hell of a time. The kids were awful because they didn't think they should be learning their history from a white guy. Okay, for a white guy to talk about his history, we understand that, but don't you, and I got along well with him. But every weekend, Friday he'd be quizzing the kids where's the action going to be this weekend? What's going to happen? Who's going to be? And they didn't like that. I turned up a couple places that I was surprised at what was going on, but because somebody said, "Why don't you stop over?" All right, I went hunting with the kids. They took me hunting. They pulled my Volkswagen out of the mud when I got stuck on the way to school. Just because I was there, not trying to pry or anything. He and I understand his perspective. He wanted to learn. Well, sometimes you try too hard, and he did. He tried way too hard, and his experience wasn't a very happy one there. We had a great time. you know, we got invited to, okay, let's go brain freeze, to a Sundance down at Crow Dog's place. And one of the kids I had in class, Lorenzo Hodgkiss, went through the Sundance where they pierced his chest with the skewers, and he prayed to the sun, you know, and we got invited to come down there and see it because he'd been one of my students. And what was interesting about Lorenzo was that the previous year he'd been an exchange student down in Kingston, New York, and we got talking one time, you know, and he said how much he really enjoyed being there. He says, nobody treated me poorly there. And I said, well, because you were no threat to anybody. But yet when on the reservation, when you go off the reservations to Winter or Valentine, Nebraska, there's little white communities outside the reservations. There was always hostility back then because the people were afraid of them. Legally, what was going to happen to them, you know, if the Indians won some of their land suit.
And plus they were plain out segregated.
Yeah, they were.
You know, which wouldn't be the case if you're the only one in Kingston.
No, I coached the modified basketball team, and we had some close encounters of the wrong kind when we went off the res to play some of the white schools. You know, it was pretty brutal. And at the end of the season, I took the kids out to dinner. We went down to a little restaurant in Valentine, Nebraska. It was the closest place that had anything decent. And we sat there for a half an hour, and nobody would come over and wait on us.
Are you kidding me?
Because they're Indians, and I was a white guy. And you know, I had never felt scared really in my whole life till I was there and saw that. And the kid said, "Come on, we'll go over to this other place." So we went over and went to a drive-through place and got some things, but the people wouldn't wait on us. It's just like what you see in the Billy Jack movie, where they're in this little cafe and everybody's there just staring at them and nobody comes near them, you know. And I hadn't really thought about that before we went there, but you could really feel the hostility. Now, I'm not above stooping real low sometimes. We were playing a little town just off the reservation. I honestly can't remember the name of the place. And we had played our game, and we'd won the modified game. They didn't have a JV; they had modified or varsity, and the varsity was playing. And they had these two white referees were officiating a game, and literally our kids were just getting the shit kicked out of them, and they didn't call nothing. And there's one play, our guy got his legs cut, he's down and everything. And I yelled out, "What is this, revenge for Custer's last stand?" Got escorted out of there. Had to go sit on the bus. The kids were going, woo, woo, woo. They were cheering and everything, but I had just had so much of it. And I said something I shouldn't have said. But I don't feel bad about it. But it was awful. I mean, I had that Scully bravado of yelling at the referees at that time. But it was...
So did you earn the respect of your team?
I had no problem with any of the kids on my team. No problem whatsoever. Richard Running and Billy Kills in Water and Burning Breast, you know, it was great. We just had a real great experience out there. Always there. And without a doubt, I learned more from them than they ever learned from me. So.
And have they invited you back for their 40th class reunion?
No. My parents came out for the graduation there, and they were sitting there, and this old Indian was there. He had his hat on and the feather on it, and he's sitting there looking, you know, and he comes over and he says to my mom and dad, you with him? He says, yes. He says, are you Indian? He says, no, but I work for the Mohawks.
Yes.
Yeah, but the Indians' response...
We're a close friend of Tommy Mohawk.
But the Indians' response was, they're not real Indians, they're back east.
They're what?
They're not real Indians, they're back east.
Really?
Yeah. Because they were those Indians. So
I wonder where the dividing line was. were the Blackhawks, out in the Midwest, were they?
Ones from Chicago, or you mean the Indians from Cleveland?
But no, I'm talking about the ones from Chicago.
Yeah.
But that's where the Blackhawk tribes were in Illinois.
Yeah.
Did the Plains Indians accept them as Indians? There had to have been a line someplace because the whole area was populated.
Anybody who wants to come to where I am, I don't like.
Yeah.
They were all territorial.
Well, one of the things I'm learning from this book on the Indian Wars is that most of the Indian names we have are the enemy.
Yes, absolutely. Most Indian names that they have for themselves is
it's something that somebody else gave them.
No, it's the people.
Right,
right. First people.
Right.
The names that the other tribes give them are the enemy. The name for the Sioux really is Nadadasue, which means snake people. Okay, because that's what the other tribes call them. Because there's always been ethnic rivalries of all people.
Right.
And the tribes that were here were good. The tribes over there are no good because they want to come in and take what we have. They want to infringe upon us. The only ones that you really would tolerate were those of the same language group that you could sort of communicate with. The ones you couldn't aren't.
Reading the history of the Iroquois, the Tuscarora came late. They were the sixth tribe.
And they came from?
North Carolina.
And what does Tuscarora mean?
The enemy.
That was very good. Shirt wearers.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
But they claimed to be of the same ethnic as the rest of the Iroquois, but they had separated long previously,
yes.
But their language was similar. And I guess they got kicked out of North Carolina, right?
They got run out by the
came back up this way. But all the other nations of the Confederacy were basically New York or
Southern Canada.
Yeah. So northern Pennsylvania, whatever. But the Tuscarora were, half a continent away before they came back.
Yeah,
but they recognized each other as being of the same group.
Because apparently in the oral tradition and their legends, that as they kind of got to New York State, they kind of began to spread out. The Seneca stopped here, the other ones came a little bit further, whether they willingly or getting pushed, and the Tuscarora had split somewhere around western Pennsylvania and went south, and they had this tradition that there was a family of ours went somewhere, now they have returned. But they are no better nor no worse than we are or any other ethnic group.
I mean it is like reading Josephus and his history of the Middle East. It's tribe after tribe.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah. Well, I think we've we haven't worn out our topics. We just kind of worn out our time here. So
we have.
It's already 12 noon on Friday, May the 9th. You won't see this till May the 10th because we have a new rule. We only upload these at after hours because it's taking up too much bandwidth. Yeah. If I can't watch my Columbo episode,
when are we going to be back? We're going to be back on Tuesday?
Yeah, we'll be back on Tuesday on the radio show, and the next
CSS?
Friday, I think so, on WCSS 1490.
What? Next Friday I shan't be here. We will be on our way down to Maryland for a bagpipe competition.
Oh.
We're leaving Friday, and we're getting there Friday night and compete on Saturday. So I will have to forego my seat and. Maybe Pete Rose will be available. Maybe there's no funerals, and
we'll see.
As you can see.
We're talking about good Pete Rose.
Yeah, not the bad Pete Rose.
Not the bad Pete Rose. Yes, he was up at 4 o'clock this morning too. I noticed on Facebook. Yeah. Anyway, so I guess that's it. I'm Bob Going with Jim Nikosha and Gavin Murdoch. We'll be back on Tuesday with the radio podcast and more of the show with no name.